Well, gang, this should be part 2 in the Camaro firewall floor pan series. As you can see, I've got my new floor pan. It's an Auto Metal Direct pan, and bought through Summit. And inside the box was, of course, the pan, and this other box with these secondary braces. And I believe these are for the convertible cars. I may not need those, but I'll look into it. You know, nice pan. It's gonna be nice to have a one-piece pan in there. And I've already started doing some things this morning. Not much, but I'm getting there. I'm gonna remove the 2 seat risers. Now I know these are actually new, and I'm gonna salvage those. And you know, when I got the car years ago, I noticed that some of the welds didn't look that good. And you can even see there's a hole there and different things that just didn't look that good. And I had done some edge welding in a few places. You can see over there. And I'll break those welds loose, get these pans out of the way, and then I'll work on getting the main pan out as well. Now, of course, I'll end up having to break loose the seams where I'd already done the mini tubs, but I'm not concerned with that. Now this new pan, as you can see, you know, you've got this lip coming down, and that's going to go to the inner rocker panel. And I'll end up putting a series of, you know, holes and then weld them shut against the inner. It already comes with your seat mounts, and then that's where their bolt goes for the to hold the bottom of the back panel of the seat. And of course, it has your mounts for your seat belts there and there, and a variety of other things. There's some other brackets. There's one over there. I think it's probably for an exhaust. And of course, it has your mount points for the subframe. And other than that, nice pan. So I'll continue on breaking things loose, and I'm sure I'm going to find some more surprises as I start to separate the main pan assembly. Just wanted to show you this all real quick. You know, I had a couple people thinking I might be just bashing on this guy's work because, you know, maybe he didn't know what he was really doing. Check this out. All I did was smack with a hammer up here on the center hump, and all of this separated. All of this separated. There's one weld there. There's remnants of a weld there. There's a little bit there. And I'm pretty confident that whatever is back here, look at that. If this car would have folded up, look at that, nothing. There's nothing holding that pan in but a few little tiny tack welds. Nothing. Look, 1 tack weld, 2 tack welds. Yep, they put more work into covering it with Bondo than into actually fixing the car. Oh, and here's another thing. That panel was over a hole, some big hole in the hump there. And again, tack weld, tack weld, tack weld. And look at all this, whatever this junk is that they pushed up in between to hide everything. So, yeah. I'm not trying to, I don't know, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but that's just so many shades of wrong. I don't know what to call it. Well, that took about 20 minutes. Yeah, that's what's underneath the floor pan. This is the mount point for the frame rail. And all of that was sitting on top of the firewall. I mean, the floor pan. Look at that. That was the weld, or attempt at a weld. It looks like They were using a MIG welder without gas, is my guess. That's not even flux core. That's just disturbing, because that was supporting the frame of the car, which supports the engine and everything else. I'm so glad that I'm cutting this apart. And look at the quality work they did removing it in the first place. Yeah. So I'm going to fix that too. Yeah. Shouldn't take much to get this section of a floor pan out. And I'm really curious as to how much of it is even welded to the side of the car. We'll find out. Well, it looks like I saved using my plasma cutter. Yep. I just stomped it with my foot and the whole thing broke loose. That's pretty awesome, huh? Good grief. Yep. Hard to believe, but people do this stuff all the time. Well, that's been about 3 or 4 hours work, I guess. But let me show you what I'm doing here. As I'm working my way down into the frame rail, I'll show you on this side a little more, and I'll show you on the new pan as well. The original floor pan came up here and overlapped, or was part of this shape. And in order to expose the welds that are in the frame, I cut off the rest of these pieces here. And you can see a little bit, there's a witness of some welds, and there'd be one there and up there. But as I cut this away, my original intent was to weld everything from the top, so that I would set the pan on with pre-drilled holes to go on the frame rail and weld those shut from the top. That's not going to work because I can't access these down here from what would be the inside, because the new floor pan will be overlapping that. So I'll show you on this side. I've already removed the bulk of the sheet metal, and this is a heavier piece, and I'll show you on that on the new pan. But this is a heavier piece that's built into the support structure. And so I did grind off the weld faces up here and separate the welds off the frame rail. But then when I got down here, I started drilling them out. And what I will do is drill down through these to get this piece off. And that'll mean welding from the bottom side to put this back together. I've also got to separate the welds over here for that structure. And also, because I've already done the mini tubs, and in that build you have to cut back the floor pan and bend it to make it have room for these tubs. So the plan is not to remove this piece. I'm going to trim this out of the new pan, and I will do a weld right here, because I don't want to break this back open and then have to rebuild all that stuff, because it's designed or intended to be built as you put this piece in, not as it's in and go back to it, if that makes sense. So let me show you the support structure that I was talking about. And I flipped the pan over, but this would be the passenger side, and now you can see this heavier plate that's inside of the pan, or on the bottom side of the pan, and this is your mount points for your spring perch. So yeah, I'll just have to weld it from the underside to make that work, and it's not a problem. I'm just letting you know so you have some idea when you get to this point. I'll continue on and get that plate out of the way, and then work on separating the rest of the pieces on that side. And just like that, 8 or so hours later, it's all gone. Now I'll show you a little more what I'm going to do. Again, I've cleaned up the frame rails, both sides, like I said. I elected to trim off a little bit more here. You know, this is again where I fabricated pieces to make the mini tubs fit, but I think the new piece will end up right there anyway, so I'll adjust accordingly. The hardest part to break loose was up here. I don't know why. It's almost like this was, I don't know, fusion weld or something. In fact, I didn't even take it all off. You see that line? I left what was left of the old floor pan there because it made no sense to cut and hack and grind and expose that when it's so solid. I can just lap on top of it and weld it. Now here in the middle it did have edge welds on it. That's why it looks like it does. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do an edge weld or I will do probably plug welds. And you can even see a witness mark where the old ones are. At least I can see them. But anyway, that'll be the plan for this back section. I did weld up the holes that were left over from Mr. Hack Job, and I've ground down all the welds in preparation. And this corner up here, I started to rebuild it a little bit at a time, mainly this lower corner. I didn't want to, I may even finish fabricating this piece before I put the pan in, but I just needed to have at least part of it in there so that I had something to work to. When I put the pan in, it's not hidden and I could do the welding. Also welded up those holes and a hole there. So at this point, this may be the end of this video. Everything is prepped for the most part as far as the car goes. Now the next step I'll show you on the next video, will be prepping the pan itself and doing all my fitments. So we'll call this an end to this one. Stay tuned, more to come.